Have you ever wondered how much of your suffering isn't even truly yours? How much of your self-hatred, your hesitation, your shame is nothing more than a ghost, a shadow of someone else's fear that you mistook for your own reflection? Maybe it started in childhood. A father who called you lazy because he couldn't stand the guilt of his own stagnation. A mother who labeled you selfish for simply asking to be seen, when her own unmet needs rotted inside her. Or maybe it was a teacher who told you to stop daydreaming, stop imagining, stop being so sensitive, because your light threatened to expose how dim theirs had become. Nietzsche said, "We see things not as they are, but as we are." But the same is true in reverse. Others see you through the warped glass of their own unresolved wounds. And when they speak of you, judge you, diminish you, they are often only speaking to the fractured parts of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. The tragedy? You believed them. You took their projections and wore them like tattoos across your heart. You repeated their words in your own voice. I guess I am too much. I guess I am not enough. The theft of your self-image. Carl Jung wrote that what we fail to make conscious we meet as fate. Your fate for years might have been living out someone else's story, carrying burdens that were never yours to hold, defending yourself against accusations that were really confessions from other people's subconscious. So ask yourself now, with painful honesty, who am I without their voices? If you stripped away the old echoes of your parents, your lovers, your friends, who would stand there in the silence? Most people don't want to find out, because it's easier to keep wearing the distorted mirror than to face the terrifying blank canvas of your authentic self. But until you do, you're just a puppet, dancing to strings pulled by long-dead fears that were never even yours. How projections keep you trapped. Nietzsche didn't want you to merely break free from religion, or society, or tradition. He wanted you to break free from all borrowed truths. From the subtle ways other people's inadequacies still define your limits. When someone calls you selfish for choosing yourself, it may just mean they've never known how to love themselves. When someone says you're arrogant for shining, it may be their own crushed potential mourning inside them. When someone labels you dramatic for expressing pain, it might simply be their terror of confronting their own buried wounds. The question is, why are you still swallowing their judgments like gospel? Why does your nervous system tremble at the possibility of being disapproved by people who can't even look in the mirror without flinching? The haunting power of internalized lies. Here's what's most cruel. Over time, you become your own distorted mirror. Their criticisms echo so long inside you that they start sounding like your own thoughts. Their shame embeds itself in your muscles. Their fear of life's vastness becomes your careful, cautious way of moving through the world. Nietzsche called this a kind of moral disease, where your natural instincts become infected by other people's cowardice. You learn to walk hunched over, apologizing for taking up space, fearing your own voice. The invitation to see truly. So pause now. Close your eyes. Picture yourself standing in a hall of mirrors, each one showing you not who you are, but who someone else needed you to be. A good son, a polite daughter, a compliant lover, a loyal friend, even when loyalty meant betrayal of yourself. Now, smash them, one by one. Watch the shards fall. Let the floor be littered with all the twisted images that kept you imprisoned. And then, stand there, naked, unmirrored, unscripted. Ask again, who am I, when no one is looking? Who is this creature beneath the layers of borrowed shame and inherited fears? Because that is where your real story begins, not in the reflections others handed you, but in the terrifying, exhilarating work of becoming your own witness, your own author, your own raw, unapologetic self, the invisible emotional blackmail. Think for a moment about how many times you've swallowed your own truth just to keep someone else comfortable. How many times you've dulled your joy so it wouldn't outshine their gloom. How many times you've silenced your pain because you feared it would make them turn away. This isn't compassion. This is invisible emotional blackmail. It's one of the most common forms of manipulation, and also the hardest to see, because it's rarely spoken aloud. It happens in the micro moments, the disappointed sigh, the sudden cold shoulder, The look of quiet devastation that says, "Look what you did to me." And so you learn. Learn to keep yourself small, your needs smaller. Learn to tiptoe around feelings that don't even belong to you. Learn that peace means self-erasure, the unspoken contract of guilt. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe you had a mother whose tears were your leash. Every time you asserted yourself, she crumbled. So you learned to stop wanting, stop needing, be good, be easy, be less. Or maybe it was a father who grew distant whenever you showed vulnerability. So you learned to hide your tenderness, laugh off your own pain, become a fortress so he wouldn't abandon you. Gabor wrote that children trade authenticity for attachment. They'd rather betray themselves than risk losing the fragile love of those they depend on. But here's the tragedy. Most people never renegotiate that old contract. They keep living by the same terrified logic. I must not upset them. I must not take up too much space. Their comfort is my responsibility. Even when they're 30, 40, 50 years old, they still flinch at the thought of making someone else uncomfortable. Emotional blackmail in adult relationships. Look at your friendships. Who withdraws when you don't play their rescuer? Who turns passive-aggressive when you prioritize yourself? Who makes your healthy boundaries feel like betrayal? Look at your lovers. Who pouts, goes silent, acts wounded, just because you voiced a need they'd rather ignore? Who keeps you anxious, guessing, performing emotional labor so they don't have to face their own emptiness? Look even at your workplace. Who relies on your guilt to overload you, knowing you'll say yes because saying no might mean conflict? Nietzsche would call this herd morality in disguise. Everyone pulling each other back into the same swamp of silent agreements. Don't grow, don't question, don't rise above, stay with us, keep playing the game. Why it's so hard to break? Because the cost feels unbearable. What if they withdraw love? What if they reject you? What if they smear your name, call you cold, selfish, arrogant? It's easier, your nervous system thinks, to stay entangled. Better to carry their burdens than face the horror of standing alone. But Viktor Frankl reminds us that between stimulus and response there is a space. And in that space is your power. The power to decide whether to keep performing for someone else's fragile ego, or to finally breathe as yourself. The quiet rebellion of letting them feel. So what if you let them sit with their disappointment? What if you stopped scrambling to fix their discomfort? What if their sadness was theirs to process, and not yours to dissolve at the expense of your own integrity? Because true compassion isn't about rescuing people from feelings they need to experience. It's about standing present without losing yourself while they navigate their own storms. When you refuse to be emotionally blackmailed, you teach people something profound. That love isn't control. That closeness doesn't mean forfeiting your soul. Ask yourself this: who would you be if you stopped letting guilt steer your life? Who might emerge if you allowed others to feel disappointed, even hurt, without making it your crime? Maybe the ones who truly love you would adapt, grow, meet you in that new, honest space. Maybe some would drift away, leaving behind the hollow bonds that were never really about love, only about manipulation. Either way, you'd stand freer, more real, no longer the emotional janitor of everyone else's mess. So next time someone sighs, withdraws, or gives you that wounded look designed to pull you back into old patterns, pause, breathe. Ask quietly, inside yourself, is this truly my responsibility? Or have I been manipulated into believing that love means endless sacrifice? Because you were never born to be an emotional hostage. You were born to walk alongside others, not carry them on your back at the cost of breaking your own spine. The theater of the victim and the savior. Look closely at the hidden roles people play around you, and maybe the roles you yourself slip into when no one is watching. There is a dark theater running constantly in human relationships. On one side, the victim, frail, wounded, drawing power from helplessness. On the other, the savior, strong, selfless, building identity on the illusion of rescue. You've likely been both. because it's intoxicating to be the one who suffers. It means you're above criticism. Who would dare question someone who is already so burdened? And it's just as addictive to be the savior. To say, look at me, I am needed, I am good. Without me, they would crumble. The hidden contracts in victimhood offers a twisted kind of immunity. It says, I suffer, therefore I must not be challenged. Some people learn to wield their pain like a shield. Whenever accountability or growth approaches, they retreat behind their wounds. They keep the story alive that they are too broken to be expected to change. It becomes a moral armor, a way to avoid the terrifying responsibility of transformation. Nietzsche would say this is the morality of the weak masquerading as virtue. Instead of rising, they pull others down to meet them in the low place. It's not that they truly want healing, they want companions in the dark to validate staying there. The savior's ego trap. But rescuers aren't innocent either. There's a seductive ego boost in being the hero. You get to distract yourself from your own chaos. You focus on fixing others, so you never have to face the mirror of your own life. Jung warned that this is how we avoid the shadow, by pouring our life force into correcting what's outside of us, so we never have to venture into the haunted rooms of our own psyche. And often, the savior unconsciously ensures the victim stays broken. Because if the person they're helping actually stood up, grew strong, walked away, who would the savior be then? What purpose would they serve? Nietzsche's savage reflection. Nietzsche wrote, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." When you set out to save, to fix, to control another's journey, you risk becoming the very force that oppresses their freedom. It's a subtle tyranny, because it wears the mask of care. I only want what's best for you. But beneath that is often fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of feeling irrelevant. Fear of facing the void in your own soul once their chaos no longer distracts you. Breaking free from the tragic theater. So who are you without these roles? Who are you if you stop using your pain as a pass to avoid growth? Who are you if you stop using others' pain as a distraction from your own? It's terrifying, because you lose the scripts that made life predictable. No more victim to be pitied, no more savior to be praised. Just you, raw, trembling, unscripted. But that's also where genuine connection finally begins. Where love is no longer a contract of mutual illusions, but a meeting of two whole, flawed, honest souls. So pause. Ask yourself, am I clinging to my wounds so I won't have to evolve? Am I clinging to someone else's wounds so I won't have to look at my own? Because once you drop these roles, there's nothing left but truth. And though it may be lonely at first, it's also the only ground on which anything real can ever grow. The twisted logic of shame. If guilt tells you, I did something bad, shame whispers a darker lie. I am bad. Shame is not just an emotion, it's a tool. A system of control refined over generations to keep individuals small, docile, predictable. Families use shame to maintain old hierarchies. Communities use it to punish deviation. Religions use it to keep followers obedient. Governments use it to keep populations quiet. And in every case, it's most effective when internalized, when the oppressor no longer needs to be outside of you, because their voice lives inside your head. How shame trains you to be your own jailer. From a young age, you were taught what was shameful. To want too much, to speak too loudly, to show anger, to desire sex, to question authority, to chase dreams too big for the small cages they built around you. So you learned to police yourself. You shamed your own impulses before anyone else could. Nietzsche would call this a sickness of morality, where instead of instincts flowing naturally, they get twisted into self-punishment. Instead of becoming who you are, you become who you think they'll still accept. The hidden social contract of shame. And here's the cruelest part. Once you've been shamed enough, you start enforcing the same chains on others. When someone dares to live freely, boldly, shamelessly, a part of you bristles. Who do they think they are? Why should they get to live unafraid when I've spent my whole life kneeling? This is how cultures of smallness sustain themselves. The wounded policing the wounded, everyone ensuring no one rises too high, loves too deeply, dreams too dangerously. Breaking the shame spell. So ask yourself, who profits from me being ashamed? Who benefits when I silence my desires, downplay my gifts, shrink my dreams? It's rarely you. It's almost always those who feel threatened by someone fully alive. Viktor Frankl said that when we can't find meaning, we distract ourselves with pleasure or numb ourselves with suffering. Shame is often the anesthesia. It keeps us from daring to chase something bigger because it tells us we're unworthy from the start. But what if you called its bluff? What if, the next time shame told you, "Stay small, stay safe," you whispered back, "No," reclaiming your untamed self? Because on the other side of shame is power. Not the brittle power of dominance, but the gentle, unshakable power of authenticity. Imagine waking up and no longer filtering your joy, your hunger, your sadness. Imagine being able to say exactly what you mean, love exactly how you feel, create exactly what burns inside you, without apologizing for the space you take. That's what Nietzsche meant by owning yourself. It's a terrifying freedom, because there's no more herd to hide behind, no more scapegoats for your unlived life. But it's also the only place where your soul can finally breathe. The ultimate manipulation, you versus yourself. By now you've seen how others shape you through projections, guilt, silent contracts, shame. But none of it would work if not for the deepest, most insidious manipulation of all, the one you perform on yourself. At some point, all those external voices moved inside. They became your inner dialogue, your constant whisper. Now you don't even need someone to criticize you, you criticize yourself. You don't need someone to limit you, you instinctively limit yourself. Becoming your own warden. You cut off your own desires before they can embarrass you. You censor your own dreams before they can disappoint you. You dim your joy before it shines too brightly and invites judgment. Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate tragedy. When the herd morality becomes so internalized that you police yourself, even in solitude. It's like building a prison cell inside your own chest, locking the door, and then throwing away the key, all to keep yourself from the frightening possibility of being fully alive. The painful paradox. So many of the stories you tell yourself are not truths. They are defenses. I can't chase that dream. I'm not talented enough. I can't love like that. I'll only get hurt. I can't break free. I'm just too damaged. These stories keep you safe from the risk of trying. They keep you comfortably nestled in familiar misery. Because freedom is terrifying. It means there's no one left to blame if you fail. It means stepping into a vast, uncertain landscape with only your raw self as guide. The raw invitation. So who would you be if you dropped the stories? If you let yourself want what you actually want, without first running it through the gauntlet of shame and fear? Maybe you'd stumble. Maybe you'd stand alone for a while, rejected by those who preferred you small. Maybe you'd fail spectacularly. But maybe, just maybe, you'd taste something Nietzsche would have called the highest good, the privilege of owning your own existence. So pause. Look honestly, maybe for the first time, at the mirror inside you. Ask, whose voice is it that tells me to stay quiet? Whose rules am I still obeying? Whose fears am I living out while calling them my own? Because here's the final truth. It was never really them. It was always you, keeping yourself small, safe, acceptable. And the day you decide to step beyond that, you will terrify people. You will terrify yourself. But you will also finally be free. Free to live, to ache, to rise, to fall, all on your own terms. And that is the only kind of life that ever truly belonged to you.